A year and a half and we're back. It is nice to see those here this morning joining with us, and we're also videoing this for a YouTube presentation later. It's not a live broadcast, so we can get away with some things maybe. I'm Bob Willey, and I've had the privilege over the last 5 years to be the president of the Friends of the Georgetown Library, and it has been a privilege. This is a fantastic library, a fantastic staff doing a wonderful service to the community. And the Friends' job is to see all we can do to support them financially and personnel and everything else, and just in morale. But it's just such a great group under Dwight McInvale and the team that's working here. And the Friends have had a very interesting past year, as so many organizations have done, to look at creative alternatives as to ways by which we can continue to do our work and accomplish our purposes. And one of which has been the Tuesday With series. This is our 5th year. We continued even last year. We went almost the entire year with just video, and that was a live streaming as well as videoing and putting it up on YouTube. But a very successful year and a wonderful experience. This is the 5th year of Tuesdays With. The name comes from a book that came out in 1997 by Mitch Albom called Tuesdays with Maury. A student that continued to be in contact with his professor over many years. And we saw that as a good title for our series because it speaks of what is the continuing learning educational process for all of us. It doesn't end when formal schooling ends, but it continues on as you go through the later years of life. I'm speaking of myself, none of you, and being able to continue to learn and expand and just be a growing human being. And that's what the Tuesdays With series is all about. I'll speak a little bit later on of some of our other programs and what we've done in this past year, but also what we're going to be doing this year. But it is nice to see a group of people here in front, and also those of you who are joining us by YouTube later. It's just nice to be able to continue to provide this service, this series to the community of Georgetown, really a great community as well. Today is our first in this season. We go from September through May. We're going to take a break in December, but I'll talk about that later. The 3rd Tuesday is too close to Christmas, and so we thought we'll take a break from it all. But otherwise, we have this on the 3rd Tuesday of each month, and I'll talk more about that series. And today, our September program is Tuesday with Johnny Ford, Natalie Days, and Ron Daise. So you get 3. You don't get just Maury, but you get 3 Maurys today. Johnny Ford is a native of Pawleys Island, one of our speakers today. He proudly remains a resident today, where he and his wife Vera raised 2 sons. He's a United States veteran. We appreciate that service. Thank you. And also, Ron and Natalie, along with Johnny, all got to know each other through a church, the, I hope I have it right, Johnny A., House of God Church in Pawleys Island.
Is it?
Did I get it right? Where, he's here somewhere. Oh, there he is. Did I get it right? I want to advertise the church and do it well. Can't do that. Right. And that's how they got to know each other. Johnny A. is here as well. Ron Daise was born on, we had a meeting this morning on this. This is where a non-native has to, St. Helena?
I say Helena.
Helena.
Close enough.
No. See, I lived for many years in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and people don't know how to pronounce Lancaster. They go Lancaster or something like that, so I wanted to pronounce it correctly. A graduate of Hampton University, and a lifetime of preserving and documenting Gullah culture and history with books, recordings, and performances. He's Vice President for Creative Education at Brook Green Gardens, where I'm sure many of us have seen and heard him. Just a wonderful blessing of the work that he's provided there. A charter member of the Sea Island Translation Team and Literacy Project, one of which projects was the translation of the Bible into Gullah. And that's right here. That is such a neat experience. I also brought it for Natalie just to And he's a board member of the Developing International African American Museum of Charleston, South Carolina, and that project continues to move forward. Natalie, born in central New York, but she came home to the Low Country of South Carolina in 1983. Natalie spoke a couple of Christmases ago for us, a couple of Decembers ago, and she shared about how this was home after she got here. I understand that. I've been in northern New York too, so had that experience. Earned a BA degree from Vermont College and an MA in Creative Studies from Union Institute and University, And for more than 25 years, Natalie has been a performing and visual artist whose belief in the positive power of stories fuels everything that she does. We are honored. Ron and Natalie were awarded the South Carolina prestigious Order of the Palmetto in 1996 and the 1997 State of South Carolina Folk Heritage Award. We're privileged today in this presentation on McKenzie Beach Memories. I just love the way this works out. We have the story, Johnny, we have the storyteller, Ron, and we have the story artist, Natalie, with us today to be able to share this with us, and we look forward to it. Welcome, Johnny, Natalie, and Ron.
Thank you.
This is Ron.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's exciting to be the first for the series this year. And the book is entitled McKenzie Beach Memories by Johnny L. Ford. Here he is over there. As told to Ron Days. And it is a children's book for adults too. Just to give you, and I couldn't remember the exact year. I don't know if it was in 2015 or 2016 at the, as before church began. I think Mr. Ford said, well, Ron, I want to see you after the church. It's something I want you to help me with. And soon after the service, we were walking outside, and he pulled me aside. He went, well, and that there was a book project or a writing project that he wanted me to help him with. Would I be willing? I said, sure. So we scheduled an appointment to go by his house, and he pulled out some journaling that he'd been doing, record keeping. He said, it's about McKenzie Beach. He had told me on that Sunday, and I was so excited because since I had moved to Georgetown, and I've now been at Brook Green for 17 years, since I had moved to Georgetown, people had always told me about McKenzie Beach. And on several occasions at Brook Green Gardens, I had done oral history recordings, and people would reference McKenzie Beach. And I said, well, this is going to be great. He had pulled out, that is, Mr. Ford pulled out his writings, things he had handwritten, some things that had been typed out. And in this binder, there were also some clippings of reporters had done things about McKenzie Beach. And he spoke about it, and I took these writings home with me, and I don't know, it was a short period after that, because when I went home, and because of Google, you could find out about anything. But some of the same clippings showed up that he had told me about. And Mr. Ford had said that he wanted this story to pass on to his children and family members. And I really, in hindsight, I didn't know what type of book that he had in mind, but I had typed up a story, and in that story, I wanted to share. I thought that it would be good if it was a children's story, because the information that had been presented in the clippings was for adults, and a lot of the writings that he had done of his memories were all good. I thought it would be good because that would help the younger, the younger generation to know about the importance of this story. And also because of my own background, sharing information about Gullah heritage, I thought, well, it would be good to let people know that this occurred in a Gullah community. Of course, at the time that McKenzie Beach existed, the word Gullah was hardly ever referenced. And even to this day, there are a number of Gullah Geechee people in Georgetown who don't readily identify as a Gullah Geechee, but I thought that would be good to do. And there were memories that stretched over a longer period of time, but I conflated those memories to happening in one summer. And I include these references to Gullah Geechee culture and heritage. And I asked him about what he thought about it. He said, well, he thought that would be okay. So here, and I think for the most part, this is what I presented to him initially. From the time until it was published, there may have been just a few tweaks added to it. But McKenzie Beach Memories. It's a name of sunshine, rolling waves, and happy memories. When I hear it, I smile as wide as a cook who's ready to remove enough golden brown catfish from the frying pan to fill a platter full. The name is McKenzie Beach. Although the formal name is Mackenzie's Beach, all who spoke Geechee talk just dropped the apostrophe and the S. This meant that it was the beach that Mr. Frank McKenzie owned. Saying that name quickly 4 times back to back makes me snap my fingers, sing rhythmically, and sway my head and shoulders from side to side. McKenzie Beach, McKenzie Beach, McKenzie Beach, McKenzie Beach. You see, good food, jamming, music, and skillful moves in the water and on the dance floor made McKenzie Beach an unforgettable place. Now, this wasn't just any kind of beach. It was called a black beach. This confused me when I was real little. The sand was white and shiny, not brown or black, and it glistened in the daytime. The water was not black either. It was grayish blue, but not black. When I got older, I learned it was called a black beach because it was a place along the coast of the big Atlantic Ocean where black people could gather and swim. The white beach was miles away in Myrtle Beach. During the early 1950s, when I was about 9, black and white people had to swim in separate areas. That's right. Even though the ocean's waters never separated and ebbed and flowed to both areas. I loved McKenzie Beach. It stretched from Highway 17 in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, all the way to the ocean front. One summer, I left with my mom and grandfather from our home on the west side of Highway 17 to stay in the McKenzie Beach Motel. They would be the summertime chefs. I remember arriving with our suitcases. After Ma drove down the dirt road that led to the beach, she parked the car in the unpaved parking lot. Grandpa started unloading our belongings. I saw a group of children gathered around a man dressed in white with a white apron tied around his waist and wearing a nice-looking summer hat. That was Mr. McKenzie. I stepped closer to watch. The kids were excited and having lots of fun. Some jumped double dutch, and the man clapped his hands as the kids sang a Gullah children's tune. Old lady come from Booster. She had 10 hens and a rooster. The rooster died, the old lady cried. She couldn't get egg like she used to. The kids raised their left and right legs quickly up and down, dance-like. They jumped over 2 ropes that alternately hit the ground, then swung over their heads. The singing, the jumping, the hand clapping continued until one kid's misguided leg stopped the rhythm of one of the two ropes. Someone then would explode with a soft expression that got louder and louder. Oh! Laughter from all would follow. Then, two new jumpers would position themselves to begin the dance, the jump dance, jump dance, jump dance rhythm again. I wish I could jump like that, I thought to myself. When I looked around, my folks were way ahead of me on the footbridge. I ran along quickly to catch up with them. Maybe I can't jump like those kids, I told myself, but I bet none can run as fast as I can. I had visited my most favorite place in the world a couple of times before, but had never stayed there for the whole summer. My eyes looked this way and that way to see if there was anything new. I had no way of knowing at that time that this summer would bring two surprises that never would have crossed my mind. Before seeing the kids playing, we'd already passed the large blue house sitting over the marsh that always caught my attention. It was bigger than any house I'd ever seen before. And it was owned by Mr. Manigault, a black man. How about that? The wooden footbridge just beyond the parking lot was the same as always. It was sturdy, about 10 feet wide and stretched across the creeks and marsh. At high tide, it sat just above the water. After guests had stopped at a small booth and had paid 10 cents or 15 cents to cross over, they would not have minded if that bridge had been made of goat horns, or if trolls or plat-eyes lived below it. All who crossed it were on their way to a beach that had no rival. It was beautiful. Everyone's anticipated excitement rolled inside their chests like a huge wave when they stepped down the bridge, heard the roar of the ocean, saw the large white sand dunes, and watched the waving sea oats. Good fishing spots and a park area with palm, pine, oak, and magnolia trees, as well as pretty flowers and shrubbery, made the beach welcoming. The McKenzie Beach Motel, the dining room, and the pavilion lined the beachfront. The most popular was the pavilion. It was the main attraction because of the game rooms, the live bands, the dancing, and the eating. It had a spacious dance floor, a bandstand, lots of tables and chairs, and a bar that stretched from one wall to another. Of course, I couldn't go near the dance area or where adult drinks were served. But when the evening crowd spilled outside, I watched teens and adults doing the swing. Dancers boogie-woogied round and tossed partners over their heads and around their waists. This was the place where black people from all over traveled to have a real good time. Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, Count Basie, and many other great singers and musicians all performed there. Ma and Grandpa prepared and cooked all kinds of foods for beachgoers. I spent much of my time in the kitchen of the pavilion, watching them create food dishes that made vacationers happy about everything they were served. My favorites were the breakfast pancakes and pork sausage. Popular with guests were the down-home, good-eaten dishes. collard greens, rice and beans, fried chicken, smothered pork chops, cornbread, and sweet potatoes, never received a single complaint. I thought McKenzie Beach was paradise. The dining room was a concrete block building that was covered with plaster and painted white with pink trimming. It looked like a Spanish villa. Its glossy red tiled floor reflected the lights from a huge chandelier hanging in the ceiling. The lighting also showed a glass display case that was filled with the most beautiful and tasty pies and cakes in the world. Everyone knew it was time to eat when the saltwater breezes became filled with the aromas of traditional Southern foods. The third building, the motel, had 24 rooms. It was built in a rectangular shape with a courtyard in the center. Large beach chairs and tables with umbrellas made guests feel relaxed and treated with luxury. My summer good time activities were running up and down the sand dunes, picking up seashells, and swimming in the ocean. Almost every adult on the beach acted as though they were my parent. Well, I guess they knew my mom was working in the kitchen. So whenever I jumped into the water, grown-ups would keep a close eye on me and yell, "Don't go far! Don't go far!" And then they'd repeat the very same instruction. "Don't go far! Don't go far!" But one day, guess what happened? That's right. I accidentally went out too far when I was swimming with my cousin. We got caught in a riptide and I almost drowned. Struggling in the water, my cousin swam and made it to shore. He told me when he saw me going under, he kept shouting, "Jump, jump, jump." I don't remember ever doing this before when I'd been in the ocean, but with every ounce of strength I had left, that's what I did. I jumped. It was almost like the rhythm of the double Dutch jumpers I'd seen on arrival day. Without touching my feet to anything, I lifted my head and chest, jumping up and up and up until I reached a safe area. Now, on that page of the book, there is a footnote for readers to go to the back. And it reads, Johnny Ford was lucky to survive the rip current. In the 1950s, the best way to escape was not known. Today, we know not to fight against the current. Instead, a distressed swimmer should save energy and swim parallel to the shoreline to escape the pull of the current. There he is. And there he is today. After I recovered from my near-death experience, I played in and around the motel with my cousin and newfound friends. One day, my friends and I walked across the bridge to the snack shack located across from the ticket booth. We saw Mr. Frank talking to a girl about 16 years old. He smiled and winked at me and said, "Boys, remember to do what's right." I paused to watch this confrontation. Mr. Frank was a handsome, slender, light-skinned man. He greeted all guests with a smile and with both hands tucked into the pockets of the white apron he wore. The coins he'd collected from admission jingled as he walked. Too bad the girl hadn't known that Mr. Frank had the eyes of an eagle. Nothing, I mean nothing, got past him. You need to learn to respect your elders, young lady, he told her, speaking softly but sternly. Don't ever let me see you trying to rob someone of what they're due again in this life. When you pay the fee, I'll forget about this incident, and you can go on across and have a wonderful time. What do you say to that? Mr. Frank began to escort the girl down the bridge to the parking area. She seemed embarrassed. Apparently, she had attempted to cross the bridge without paying admission. Mr. Frank wasn't having that. Back at the booth, she reached into her pants pocket, pulled out some change. She dropped the money into Mr. Frank's hand and then started back up the bridge. When she passed me, she looked me straight in the eye and whispered, "Your daddy must have eyes in the back of his head." Daddy? What are you talking about? I shot back. That man ain't my daddy. Boy, everybody know that's your daddy, she said. For true, you don't know? That's your pa. Mm-hmm. Until that moment, I'd never heard that story. And I kept the rumor to myself for years. Kids weren't allowed to talk with adults about such matters at that time unless an adult spoke about it first. But when I reached adulthood, Mr. Frank pulled me aside and said, "You can call me Pops." Well, before my family headed back to our home on the mainland in August, I'd had 2 summertime experiences unlike any other. I'd almost drowned and had heard a seemingly unbelievable story. Since then, the memories of the once thriving McKenzie Beach became something I want everyone to know about. It's true, so try it. Say the name quickly 4 times back to back and see if it makes you snap your fingers, sing rhythmically, and sway your head and shoulders from side to side. McKenzie Beach, McKenzie Beach, McKenzie Beach, McKenzie Beach. It's a name of sunshine, rolling waves, and happy memories. The end. Are there any who visited who at one time McKenzie Beach? Any in the audience of anyone who had visited McKenzie Beach? Did that bring back memories? Wonderful. And now, my wife, Natalie Days, will tell you about her artistry.
Good morning. So I entered Mr. Ford's story later. Ron had been working with Mr. Ford on the book. I may have been aware of it. I don't know. He could have told me. He tells me stuff I don't necessarily. It's not like I'm not listening. I don't always remember. But what I do remember was at the end of 2017, he said, well, would you like to illustrate Mr. Ford's book? Mr. Ford would like you to illustrate his book. And at the time, I don't even think I was in town. I had been traveling, and I just said, sure. And then my life took a turn. You know, family stuff happens, and somewhere in early 2018, I thought I should look at it. And I read the manuscript that had been presented by Class Publishing, and thought, wow, how do I do this? I'd never illustrated a book before. I've been painting for years, but I've never illustrated a book. How do you do that? And so I asked Linda Ketchern, and she said, oh, just any way you want. That's not helpful. And I sat and I talked to Mr. Ford, and he said, I'm sure you'll do fine, Miss Natalie. Well, thanks. But I did remember some of the things he told me when I asked him about it. And then I began to do the thing that I actually spend the most time doing when, and that's how I felt. When I'm doing a project actually, most of my time is research before I actually get to painting something. What am I going to paint? What part of this really wonderful story of Mr. Ford's memories and he and Ron's collaboration, which words do I turn into a picture? I don't know. There's lots of words here. So first thing was, well, what can I find out there in the world land of Google, where I can maybe find some good reference pictures that I can begin? Well, I Googled McKenzie Beach. I Googled black beaches in South Carolina. I asked folk who had family out there. As a matter of fact, I talked to Marilyn Hemingway, whose family still owns a piece of that property. And I said, do you think any of your family members would share photos with me? She said, I don't know, I don't trust a lot of people. So I looked, and all I could find were these pictures. This is a group of students, kids from Camp Baskerville at McKenzie Beach, somewhere in the 1950s. And this is actually an earlier picture, because the little boy to the, this is my right hand, right? The right is Walter Manigault Jr. And that's Anthony Hurley. I don't know who the baby, but his name is Anthony Hurley. These are the two pictures I found of McKenzie Beach, and I loved them a lot. And I actually considered doing a really large painting of this one, but that was really just for my own, because I wanted to, not because it would really tell the story of the book. So I had to look for my inspiration in other places. I did find in an article these photos of Miss Manigault talking about the beach and the house that Mr. Ford remembered. So this was actually the structure of the house, and that remnant there shows you a little bit about the color of the blue house he mentioned. And so in that page where you see the little boy running by a house, it is that house to scale that I painted in the background, because I could do that. And after that, I had to do what Maya Angelou said is inventing the truth. You have to look for what you can find, and you have to make it meet your needs. So what I've done is pick just a few of the paintings for the book and showed you the process of how I came to them. Not all of them, but you'll be able to get the lovely book from Mr. Ford here or in the library, and then you can look at the final versions of these pieces. So I'm just going to share a few, because I really want Mr. Ford to talk about his memories. And what was most important to me, since I was inventing the truth, was to honor his story and my great respect for him as my elder and as a person who had told this story. I smile, I say it's my elder, because it's funny. I'm at this place now where people are always like, ma'am, and holding doors, and I think, what? I'm like, oh, I'm an elder too. When did this happen? But he's my elder. And I was raised to always respect my elders. So, you know, I'll be 80 and somebody is 95, I'm gonna be like, okay. So, here is photos of the Manigault house, and I'm not showing you the final, you'll see in the book. So, the very first painting in the book, and it begins with, you know, this idea of this place that was so much fun and felt so joyous. And I said, well, let me Google black beaches in the 40s and 50s and see what I can find. And I came across this wonderful picture of these happy children. And I thought, what a great way to start the story. Now, as you see, the book is oblong, it's vertical. And I had to think about where the words are going to go. So I took this painting and made some changes. As you can see, the dog has turned into a ball. Just because I didn't feel like painting a dog. And I did that, and then left enough room for the text and just that sense of this exciting thing that you're going to do in the summer to go to this beach. When we talked about the children dancing, I began to look for pictures of children. This picture is actually from like the 60s, this particular one here. And I saw these children dancing, and this is something that is familiar with me from playgrounds in my youth as a little kid, where we always had hand games and play games. It's just something that certainly happened a lot in black communities. So I took this picture, pulled it into Photoshop. You can see that one child disappeared, and I moved those two closer together so that I could have this children dancing, that sense of movement. All of my boards, I back paint all my canvases. I generally paint them cobalt blue. And then with this one, I was trying to bring different textures in different colors, and I painted the whole background over the cobalt blue, sort of a sagey green, didn't like it. Went back in with yellow, I liked it. It was happier. I wanted happy. Here we go, we're talking about the children jumping rope. I found this old image, it says, you can see from the Chicago History Museum, and placed them instead out on the beach and on the grassy area where he saw them, change that child to a little boy. Because everybody played double dutch. It was generally more the girls than the boys, but sometimes boys did too, and I'm all for equal opportunity in my paintings. Okay, so we talked about the black beach, white beach. And I found that really a striking part of the story that really, it made no sense. Like somehow the water switched. I remember when I was a little girl, Daddy taking us to where he grew up in Uniontown, Alabama, and a bunch of kids were going to the pool, and he said, no, I could not go to the pool. I said, why not? Because in Uniontown, Alabama, even then, which was probably then in the early 70s, what they would do is the black children would go to the pool, then they would drain the pool, fill it with water again, and then the white children could go to the pool. Then the next day, the black children would swim in the pool that the white children swim, but then they would drain it. And he was like, you're not getting in that pool. And I never forgot that. But you can't do that with the ocean. Can't do that. So I was looking for ways to sort of tell that part of the story, and I found these two photos. And then I sort of connected them by having the pelicans just sort of connect, fly through the scene here.
But those are two separate pages in the book.
It's a spread. It's a you know, when you're doing a right. So you can do single pages or spreads, and that was also up to me to determine. You know, this is a spread. There were some pictures that just were better served by giving more space, and I just kind of had to figure out what they were going to be. This was like going to how to do a children's book school. This is what this was like for me. This was self-educated. Let's see. Okay, so this scene talked about cooking the foods that they ate, and his grandfather and his mother were doing the cooking that summer. And I was looking for something, and what did I Google? I don't know. Seniors in the kitchen. I don't know. I just kept looking, and so this part really, looking for reference images took a lot of time. It took most of the time to look at an image, to see if it would work, to see how I could adapt that image. And so I found this one, and I kind of liked it. So I pulled it into Photoshop, as you can see. I separated them. I moved them to opposite sides, so I could create a spread. You see me sort of playing with perspective with all those lines there. And here you see me holding a pan. You see at the top, trying to figure out what his hand would look like, because when you're an artist working by yourself, you got to work. So I couldn't. I just held it, took the phone, and then was able to give his grandfather the orange pot holder and the cast iron pan to flip his pancakes out of. And so it created the spread that you'll see here in the book. Later, I added texture to the painting. You'll see I really love spatter. And so you'll see me sometimes just spattering paint, because it just makes a really nice texture. Okay, so this is one of my favorites. One morning, sitting outside of the church, and I asked Mr. Johnny about one of his memories, and he said he remembered one day, you know, these men, they would be out there, you know, these guys in these green sequined like jackets performing at the band playing. And the next morning, how he went in, I guess, to help his mom and grandpa in the dining area, and the jackets on the back of the seats. And that stuck with me, even though it's not in the book, it stuck with me. But I was looking for a way. And so this photo is actually probably from the 40s. And I will say that I probably did more, even though his story was in the 50s, I probably did more aesthetic from the 40s just because I liked it. So I found this photo of this band. And if you look over here, you'll see that I've changed it. I moved the piano player and the drummer closer together. Because they aren't in a spread necessarily. And then we talked about Ella. So I Googled Ella. I found, ooh, there's a young Ella. I think I Googled young Ella. By the way, y'all, it said this was young Ella. That's what it said where I found it. Turns out it's Sarah Vaughan. But you can't always trust Google. Yeah, but she's representing Ella. And who knows, Sarah could have played there sometime. So I took the photo of, turns out to be Sarah Vaughan, cut her out, reversed her, superimposed her over the photo of the band, lost the horn player. And that became, that, which is actually one of my favorite pieces. To get Sarah, Ella, to get the singer. And you can see how I start with that blue, that cobalt blue background. And it actually, one of the reasons I do it too, and I purposely and intentionally, come over here. You can see how there's like cobalt sort of like peeking around the edges. I just wanted that, and it's that, you will see that in every painting. You'll see some cobalt. You'll also see some red on every spread, because I just wanted to. Okay, and here's the other one that's on the other side.
Go back. On that jacket, on that green jacket.
Oh yeah, there's actually glitter. I actually put green glitter in the paint. And was hoping the photographer would pick it up, and she was able, when I gave her the original canvases, and she was able to pick up the green glitter, so that when the story Mr. Johnny told me about seeing these men in these sequin green jackets, I just wanted that. So, glitter. Y'all, you know, there are rooms and places in my house where there's glitter, and y'all just, people have to deal with it. I have since moved into my own studio space behind the house where I can spatter to my heart's content. And glitter if I choose. Okay, and I really like the mic. I really like the mic. Okay, here, dancing. I looked around, I looked for juke joints in the 40s and 50s, and I found this one. I don't even know where it was, but I just liked the movement. And so you'll see here where I changed the perspective. I brought this couple to the forefront, moved that couple back a little bit for depth, and then, and it was a little like, dressing them was a little like playing paper dolls when I was a kid. I was like fashion from the late 40s and early 50s, and then I had fun. Ooh, I'm gonna give her a dress. Ooh, I'm gonna give her, my mama called those pedal pushers. Yeah, they were not crop pants, they were pedal pushers. I'm gonna give her some pedal pushers. So, there I am, I finished it! I was so happy. And that was really that December 2019, I turned all the paintings over to Linda Ketron. I hoped, it's my intention to honor Mr. Ford, to honor Mr. Ford's story as best I could. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Wow, I didn't know or didn't realize how much she put into that illustration. And the only thing I paid for was maybe a couple cans of paint and one brush. So I thank you very much, Natalie. But first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the friends of the Georgetown Library. And I want to let you know that I'm not a speaker, and I'm not good at telling stories, but maybe I can answer some questions if you have them, if I can remember them. So, like, I think the story has been told already. You know, I don't have anything else much to say, except take a couple of questions.
I have a question. I live very close by that property, and I look at it from afar, and I'm wondering if you could give us a perspective of exactly where those buildings were, because I see ruins when I look through, but I don't see anything. I don't get a perspective, and I'm wondering if you could let us know, you know, where those buildings were in reality.
So how many of you here has seen those ruins on the highway?
17, long 17.
Okay, now he wanted to know where these buildings were located and everything. They were, remember the story, say from 17 all the way back to the ocean? So in the area right there at 17, there was a building there behind where you see the ruins now, way back. and it was a large building, and they called it the Tavern. But as you leave that area and you walk down that dirt road, and like as was mentioned, the parking lot there, and then the bridge that you go across to the beach, to the ocean front. So when you get across that bridge and you're on that sandy beach with all those sand dunes and vegetation and everything, walk a little further, and then you'll see right there on the ocean front all of those buildings that were mentioned. Yeah.
They're still there.
No, I don't think. Only thing you might find there now is maybe an old piece of concrete foundation or anything. So when Hurricane Hazel came, it just wiped everything off of that beach. I don't know if you remember Hurricane Hazel, but it just wiped everything out. And like Ron said, when I wanted to ask him to help me with this story, you can believe me, I had a lot of adult stuff in mind, but it came out just right. So, and the main thing I wanted to let the younger folks know that there was a place there, and that it was owned by Mr. McKenzie, and to keep that in their memories, you know, and hopefully one day somebody can do something with that, and be a place again for you know, recreation activity. I see your question. Yeah.
I'm just curious if there's any way we could support some kind of, I don't know what it would be called, but it seems almost like this could be some kind of national or state landmark almost to honor this place. It seems like it should be honored in some way.
Yeah. You know, but like someone mentioned Google and everything. When I go into searching, it seems like a lot of people are saying the same thing that you're saying. They want to do this with the place, they want to do that. But I don't know, I didn't follow it up to see, you know, if there's an organization or someone is doing that. But
Historical landmark, that's what I was trying to look at.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Was McKenzie Beach located in the Green Book, and that was where people who were able, black people who were able to travel and who could not stay in any of the motels along the way. So was McKenzie Beach located in the Green Book? Do you know of?
I don't, do you know?
Yes, if you go to the Rice Museum, and they have some old photos of the McKenzie Beach, and you will see an excerpt from the Green Book that mentions McKenzie Beach.
Thank you.
Let me get it first.
Well, unless I missed something, what kind of background do we have on Mr. McKenzie? Do we have a portrait of him? Did I miss that?
No.
Did I have a portrait of
Yeah,
it?
there's a portrait of Mr. McKenzie, of the McKenzie family.
No. Only thing I know, he was my father, okay? When I was small, like the story says, nobody said, okay, except the little girl that was on the bridge said, hey, your dad did this or your father did that.
Right.
And I didn't know. I said, it ain't my father. But anyway, as the years progressed, I found out, and we had a lot of conversation, you know, together. And he was my father, actually. And when I was a small kid at 10 years old, and I spent that time on the beach, and like the book mentioned, the only thing I was seeing him sometime in his apron and his hat and whatever, and we didn't really communicate that much at that time, but that's how it was.
Further, great point, I'm his son.
Yeah, that's my boy back there.
I met Mr. McKenzie, I can't recall what my dad was, but I can recall memories of Mr. McKenzie several times. I just have some vivid memories that just stuck out. Because when you see the ruins, Frank, as I call him, they lived across the highway. And I remember vividly the kitchen, where I was always hanging out in their kitchen. And his wife, I stayed with her, Miss Alma, in high school, right here in Cleveland, during my senior year. And people, that was just, for some reason, I didn't know, but I just knew they always wanted me around. And the last memory I have of Mr. McKenzie, where we are currently living, Pettigrew Drive in Hawleys, we grew up in the house next door. I can recall so vividly, Mr. Frank came into the yard and gave me a Rolls Royce book. Back then, the Rolls Royce was popular. And I guess I was about 10, and I just remember he opened the book and said, which one do you want? I remember picking a white Rolls Royce. I don't know if my father, where he was or anything, but those memories are stuck into me, in my mind. And I never got the Rolls Royce. But I have lots of memories, but it's like my dad is saying. I can't recall when we all were ever together, but I stayed with him on and off.
And just to clear up, he said he didn't know where I was. I was in the military. I was traveling a lot, so.
Probably in Vietnam.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We know in October of '54, Hazel came through and took the beach away.
Yes, sir.
You can tell us when they actually started building the bridge, the pavilion, and developing that property, the backwards and the things.
You talking about after Hazel?
Before.
Oh. I really couldn't tell you, but it's there. Everything is there in Google. Yeah, it's a story that I can't remember, but there's a story from the beginning where who owned the property, how they got the property, and all of that is. Only thing is go on the computer and tap in McKenzie Beach, and everything is there. Yes, sir.
And the ruins that we see along 17 are post Hazel. That building there along 17, the motel, was constructed after Hazel?
After Hazel, that motel was constructed after Hazel.
How many rooms were performed? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I think it was about 12. You talking about the
Yeah, right.
motel right there,
yeah,
right in the
what we
ruins?
see now, yeah.
I think it was 12. Yeah. And as I remember, I was in the military. We'd come home sometime on leave, and that's where all of the waiters and the workers that worked on this field beach, that's where they stayed at McKenzie Beach. With other people also. Yes, ma'am?
Mr. Ford, I read your book when it first came out. I bought it from the class office there behind Applewoods. They've
Yeah.
moved now from Linda Ketron.
Yes, ma'am.
I enjoyed it very much. It left me wanting to know more of the performers that might have come to this little spot in South Carolina called Hawleys Island all those years ago. You referenced Count Basie and Ella Fitzgerald, but there were many, many more. I wish you would start a file on that.
Well, like I said, I was 10 years old, and a lot of time I would hide in the kitchen and peek out at the performances and stuff like that. And only thing I remember, like Natalie mentioned, these guys in their jackets and the horns and everything blasting, and there was a lot of different entertainers. I don't know exactly who they are, but those names that were mentioned were some of the people that came through there. And like I said, once again, you can look it up online and you'll see, because everybody that was coming from anywhere going to New York to perform, they would most likely stop at McKenzie Beach. So I don't know, you could have Chubby Checkers there, Bill Richard, I don't know, but I don't know who they were, but I know there was a jamming bunch of people. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, just let me interject what she was saying about performance. On Myrtle Beach, it's called Charlie's Place, and you get more in depth as to those performers who would come there. They would entertain the people on Myrtle Beach, but they had to live at Charlie's Place. And they have pictures of Little Richard and all of the great ones who came and stayed. And that's very important. So maybe you can get that connection by also going to Charlie's Place in Myrtle Beach.
Right.
And these two could give you an idea as to how the entertainers came to this part of the South, but they always searched out areas where they could stay. So that's it.
Yeah, but you know, it's a sad thing that there are not very many pictures, I don't know why, of what was going on at that particular time, like the performers and everybody, you know. I know somebody got some pictures, but just can't find them.
I had been speaking, mentioned I was speaking to Hemingway. They still own some of that property, and the Manigos still own part of that property. And they have photos. They didn't give them to me, but there are photos, and so the importance of asking elders to tell the stories. So, which is one reason I'm very glad you did this, and to not disregard those collections of old photos and things that people have. I inherited like all the photos my dad took for like 50 years on slides. I'm trying to figure out a way to do something with them. But they're really important. They're very important. And I know Marilyn says she has an elder aunt who has photos of McKenzie Beach. Maybe at some point somebody could talk to them about it.
So out of all of that, all I wanted to do, like I said, I was there as a child. I grew up there, I had fun on the beach, playing and everything, watching everything that was going on. And I just had want to, let you know I was just a happy kid running up and down the beaches and swimming in the water. And, it was just a nice place, a happy place for to go. So, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, I suppose I could go online and get this kind of information, but off the top, and maybe you all can also tell me, how long was the stretch of McKenzie Beach with jurisdiction on?
How long was the stretch?
Yeah.
I would say maybe just under a mile. Maybe just under a mile.
That's a lot compared to Miami Beach.
Yeah, it was a pretty big spread.
Yeah.
And there was, there was prominent people living there beside the motel and the hotel and everything. There was a doctor called Dr. Teal. I don't know if it was from Georgetown. He had a house over there, and a couple other people. Doctors had houses over there on the ocean front. Okay, is it?
Johnny, thank you.
Thank you.
Ron, go ahead, Ron. Yeah.
It's mine. And in the back, there is some information added, so let me read a portion of that. McKenzie Beach, one of the first African-American resorts on the East Coast, opened in June 1934. Founded by Frank McKenzie and Lillian Pyatt, it was named the Magnolia Beach Club. It covered 23 acres of oceanfront property in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, which is in Georgetown County at the south end of the Grand Strand between Myrtle Beach and Charleston. In October 1954, Hurricane Hazel, a Category 4 storm, completely destroyed the beach property. Frank McKenzie couldn't obtain funds for rebuilding. Development of Litchfield Beach had begun, and it grew difficult for blacks to secure bank loans. A smaller motel was built closer to Highway 17. The ruins remain visible today. The bridge was never repaired fully, and a new pavilion was constructed. Because it wasn't elevated high enough to escape every high tide, sometimes the dancing stopped when the waves covered the dance floor. At those times, the band members would just walk back over the footbridge and serenade listeners gathered in the park area. Frank McKenzie eventually sold his share of the property and died in 1978. The property share of Lillian Hyatt is owned privately by her descendants. If that helped to answer some of the questions.
Yeah.
It is in the back of the book.
We'll get the book.
And like there's the question, well, as Mr. Ford was answering a question, because there was creative nonfiction in this, sharing this information in a children's book. I don't know if Mr. Ford told me, I believe, you know, it was known in the community that Mr. McKenzie was his father, but he didn't hear about it until afterwards. But just as happens in Gullah Geechee communities, children hear stuff and they tell. So I had this little girl whisper this to him at that time during that summer. But that didn't necessarily happen. And there weren't, he didn't recall, Mr. Ford didn't recall seeing people jumping double Dutch. But that's what kids did. And that was part of our heritage. So that's why that was included. And also I needed to develop a reason that he thought, because he remembered that his cousin told him to jump. So in the story, he jumped just the same way as he'd seen these double Dutch jumpers did.
Sounds good.
Hopefully it made it exciting.
Again, to Johnny, thank you so very much, and Natalie and Ron for a wonderful presentation. Johnny A., do you want to talk about the availability of the book and what we can do for people who would like to get it?
Sure. I have the last of the books that we have gone to, so we've got 25 of them. But as mentioned, there are other outlets as well. So we do have 20 plus copies here today, and we're selling paid for $20 a book. After that, we'll find other outlets, and they're not going to be, we're not planning to order it right now.
Well, we're hearing.
Worth a fortune somewhere.
And you
I
have
need to
all.
raise the price, Johnny.
Once my dad gives a release again, once my mom gives him the clearance. Yeah, so that's what's happening with the books.
Very good. And that's benefiting.
Also, we donate proceeds to organization Mr. Roper represents, called Father's Place, which is a fatherly engagement program.
Father's Place, a good work here in Georgetown area. Thank you. Appreciate that so much. Good. Thank you. So see Johnny if you're interested in a copy of the book. And this has just been a wonderful, I love the interaction. What a wonderful way for understanding, as was said, a very important part of our history here in Georgetown County and this nation. So thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Ron, for your wonderful presentations and reading and artwork and memories just all coming together today. I've mentioned that this has been a year of creative alternatives and ways by which we are doing things. I'm seeing a lot of people here today who I got to see over the summertime. One of our creative alternatives was we usually had twice a year book sales, once in the fall and once in the spring, but this summer what we did is from May through August have a book sale at the farmers market. It was a wonderful way by which to interact with the community, make a lot of good friends, sell a lot of books. And through those, May, June, July, and August, those 4 months, we were able to raise $4,000 for the library during that time. We actually came in at about 3,800 and something, but somebody said, that's not good. I will give you a check to make it an even 4,000. And I appreciate that because it helps me remember how much we earned as to have those books. And it was just great. And realizing those books were 50 cents for paperbacks and $1 for hardback, that's a lot of books that sold. But thanks so much to many of you and the community for the support through that. Last year, as I said, we had to go to videoing, live streaming as well as YouTube for these presentations. But we are going to be continuing now with face-to-face, at least as we're able to do through the fall and the spring for Tuesdays With. Next month, which is October 19th, the third Tuesday, is going to be a presentation entitled The Stores of Front Street, Stories of Georgetown's Jewish Merchants. And it's going to be a panel, Richard Dimenstein from Temple Beth Elohim here in Georgetown, the leader of that the temple there, is going to be heading a panel of usually children and grandchildren of individuals who had the stores along Front Street, sharing their stories of what again is a very important part of Georgetown County history, the Jewish community here. And we hope you will join us at 10 o'clock on October 19th for that panel discussion. I'm sure it'll be really interesting and again, an important part of our history. The entire schedule for Tuesdays With, there are copies on the table there in the back, as we have a whole variety of subjects of history and nature, science, all kinds of interesting subjects all through the year of really wonderful speakers as we've enjoyed today as well. And pick up a copy of that so you can put those dates on your calendar for the rest of this year as we go from now through May. In addition to that, one of the other events we had to cancel last year was a community yard sale. We are going to be having that this year on Saturday, October 9th. If you've never seen it before, we take the parking lot back here behind, I think I'm pointing the right way, behind the library, which is the courthouse parking area. And people can rent either one parking space or two parking spaces, $15, $20. That's all it is. It's a great way. We do the marketing, the advertising, you do the setup, and the location is excellent access to people coming along 17. We do a lot of marketing. So if you, like Carol and I did during COVID, get through all those boxes we had stored and so forth, and there's stuff that you want to get rid of, this is a great opportunity to be from 8 o'clock in the morning till noon, so if you want to sell, but we also encourage you, come on by. There'll be a lot of great things up for sale that day, and I hope already quite a few people have signed up, and if you're interested, check at the front desk to sign up, and put that date October 9th from 8 to 12.
What he's saying is our junk can become your junk.
And the other is last year, again, creatively approaching things, had to reorganize our annual Yuletide home tour. And last year we did a video that we put on and had something like 2,000-3,000 people view it of our Yuletide home tour of 8 homes and a couple of houses of worship. We are going to go back to in person this year. We're excited about that on December 11th from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 5 o'clock. We already have 8 homes that individuals have indicated that they're going to open up for us, decorated for the holidays. 2 houses of worship are participating. So it's a great opportunity on that Saturday afternoon, December 11th, in what's going to be a very active holiday season here in Georgetown with many other events, and we hope you'll take advantage of the Yuletide Home Tour. We'll be sending out an announcement about that. And speaking of that, if you're not already on the email list for the Friends of the Library, be very glad to do that. There are some forms in the back which are membership forms. You don't even need to join. Just give me your email address, and we'll keep you informed of events, reminders of our Tuesdays With, the October community yard sale, and then the December Yuletide Home Tour, all the events and activities happening as we look through the rest of 2021. Again, it's been a wonderful return to face-to-face Tuesdays with what a treat. Thank you for reading, for sharing art, for sharing memories. And this has been a great experience. Again, if you're interested in books, they're available in the back. God bless you all. Thanks.